Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract wealth while others struggle despite working just as hard? What if I told you that Napoleon Hill, America's most influential prosperity teacher, built his entire philosophy around a single biblical verse that's been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years? What if the secret to unlimited wealth isn't found in the latest investment strategy or business model, but in an ancient piece of wisdom that predates every modern success system by millennia? Today, we're diving deep into the revolutionary connection between biblical wisdom and Napoleon Hill's groundbreaking approach to wealth creation. This isn't just another motivational talk about positive thinking. This is about discovering the fundamental spiritual law that governs all prosperity, a principle so powerful that Hill considered it the cornerstone of his entire life's work. We're talking about a verse that has the power to transform not just your bank account, but your entire relationship with abundance itself. Imagine having access to the same mental framework that guided Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, and Thomas Edison to unprecedented success. Imagine understanding the precise mechanism by which thoughts become things, dreams become reality, and poverty transforms into prosperity. What would you do differently if you truly grasped that every millionaire throughout history has tapped into this same universal principle? The answer to this question could be worth millions to you, not just in dollars, but in the kind of wealth that touches every area of your life. Are you ready to discover what Napoleon Hill knew that most people never will? Ready to unlock the biblical secrets of wealth that transformed America's greatest success stories? Subscribe to our channel now for weekly insights that bridge ancient wisdom with modern prosperity principles. Click that subscribe button and join thousands who are already applying these timeless truths to build extraordinary lives. Napoleon Hill was born in 1883 in a one-room log cabin in the remote mountains of Virginia, into a family so poor that his mother died when he was just 10 years old. His stepmother called him the most worthless boy in the county. Yet this same worthless boy would grow up to interview over 500 of America's most successful individuals and distill their secrets into principles that have guided millions to prosperity. Hill's transformation began not with a business opportunity or inheritance, but with a single encounter that would change the trajectory of American success philosophy forever. In 1908, as a young magazine reporter struggling to make ends meet, Hill was assigned to interview the steel magnate Andrew Carnegie. What was supposed to be a 3-hour interview stretched into 3 days, during which Carnegie challenged Hill with an extraordinary proposition. Would he dedicate 20 years of his life to studying the success principles of America's wealthiest individuals without pay to create a philosophy of achievement that could benefit all mankind? Hill accepted immediately, and that decision launched the most comprehensive study of success ever undertaken in American history. Over the next 2 decades, Hill interviewed legends including Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Theodore Roosevelt, John D. Rockefeller, and hundreds of other titans of industry and leadership. What he discovered was that despite their different backgrounds and industries, they all shared certain fundamental beliefs about the nature of wealth and success. Most remarkably, Hill found that the most successful individuals consistently referenced spiritual principles and biblical wisdom as foundational to their prosperity. This wasn't mere coincidence. It was the discovery of a universal law that transcends time, culture, and circumstance. Hill's masterwork, Think and Grow Rich, published in 1937, has sold over 100 million copies worldwide and remains one of the most influential books ever written on personal achievement. But what many don't realize is that Hill's entire philosophy was built upon his deep study of biblical principles, particularly one verse that he considered the master key to all wealth creation. This verse didn't just inform his thinking, it became the very foundation upon which he built his understanding of how abundance flows into human experience. If Napoleon Hill's integration of biblical wisdom and practical success principles is resonating with you, make sure to subscribe now. We're building a community of individuals who understand that true prosperity flows from timeless principles, not temporary tactics. Hit that subscribe button and be part of this transformative journey. the verse that Napoleon Hill considered the ultimate key to wealth is found in Proverbs chapter 23, verse 7. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. This ancient wisdom, penned by King Solomon, history's wealthiest and wisest ruler, contains what Hill believed to be the most profound truth about human potential ever recorded. But this isn't just biblical poetry, it's a precise description of the mechanism by which all wealth is created, sustained, and multiplied throughout human experience. In its original Hebrew context, this proverb was part of Solomon's practical wisdom for daily living, written during the Golden Age of Israel, when unprecedented prosperity flowed through the kingdom. The Hebrew word for thinks here is sha'ar, which doesn't merely refer to casual thoughts, but to the deep calculations and estimations of the heart, the foundational beliefs that govern all our actions. Solomon understood what modern neuroscience has only recently confirmed. Our deepest held beliefs literally reshape our reality by determining what we perceive, how we respond, and ultimately, what we attract into our lives. Ancient civilizations across the world discovered this same principle independently. The Egyptian instructions of Ptahhotep taught that thoughts precede all manifestation. Chinese philosophy emphasized that inner cultivation determines outer circumstances. Greek philosophers like Marcus Aurelius wrote that our life is what our thoughts make it. But it was in the biblical tradition that this principle found its most complete expression, linking the creative power of thought directly to divine law and spiritual abundance. What makes this verse so extraordinary is its recognition that thought is not merely mental activity, it's creative force. When Solomon wrote, "As a man thinks in his heart," he was describing the deepest level of human consciousness, where beliefs, emotions, and will unite to literally shape physical reality. This understanding predates by millennia what quantum physics now suggests about the observer effect and consciousness's role in determining outcomes. Hill recognized that this wasn't just spiritual truth, but practical science, and he spent his entire career proving it through the lives of America's most successful individuals. The verse also reveals why so many people struggle financially despite good intentions and hard work. If our outer circumstances truly reflect our inner beliefs, then poverty consciousness will always produce poverty results, regardless of external efforts. This is why Hill emphasized that wealth creation must begin with mental transformation, not with business plans, investment strategies, or career changes, but with fundamental shifts in how we think about ourselves, money, and what's possible in our lives. Napoleon Hill's interpretation of this biblical principle revolutionized American thinking about wealth creation by positioning thought as the primary creative force in human experience. All achievement, all earned riches have their beginning in an idea, Hill wrote, directly echoing the biblical teaching that thought precedes manifestation. But Hill took this ancient wisdom further by identifying the specific mental processes that transform mere thoughts into material wealth. Hill discovered that successful individuals don't just think positively, they engage in what he called definiteness of purpose, a mental state where desire, belief, and expectation unite around a specific objective. This goes far beyond casual wishful thinking to become what Hill termed burning desire, a mental state so intense and focused that it literally magnetizes opportunities, resources, and circumstances needed for its fulfillment. This process mirrors the biblical principle that faith, when combined with specific belief, moves mountains and creates what previously seemed impossible. The steel magnate Andrew Carnegie exemplified this principle perfectly. When Carnegie envisioned creating the world's largest steel company, he didn't just hope for success. He held that vision with such unwavering conviction that every decision, every conversation, every opportunity was filtered through that dominant thought. Carnegie's mind became a powerful attractor for the exact people, resources, and circumstances needed to build his empire. This wasn't coincidence, but the natural operation of the law Solomon described thousands of years earlier. Hill also observed that the wealthiest individuals understood the compound effect of sustained thinking. Just as money compounds through consistent investment, thoughts compound through consistent focus. Henry Ford's unwavering belief in affordable transportation for the masses didn't just inspire the Model T, it attracted the innovations, partnerships, and market conditions that made mass production possible. Ford's dominant thoughts literally reshaped American society by first reshaping his own consciousness around his vision. Perhaps most importantly, Hill recognized that this principle works both positively and negatively with perfect precision. Those who consistently think thoughts of lack, limitation, and impossibility attract circumstances that confirm those beliefs. Conversely, those who maintain dominant thoughts of abundance, possibility, and achievement find their external world conforming to these inner patterns. This understanding transformed Hill's approach to success coaching from technique-based methods to consciousness-based transformation, making him the first American teacher to fully grasp the spiritual mechanics of wealth creation. Are you beginning to see how your own thoughts might be shaping your financial reality right now? Subscribe to our channel to dive deeper into these consciousness-based approaches to wealth building. We're exploring principles that go far beyond traditional financial advice to address the root causes of prosperity and poverty. Don't miss out. Subscribe today. Hill's research revealed that true wealth manifests across multiple dimensions of human experience, each governed by the same fundamental principle that thoughts become things. In the realm of financial abundance, Hill observed that every fortune begins with a specific mental picture held with unwavering faith. The railroad magnate James J. Hill visualized connecting the American continent by rail long before the technology existed to make it practical. His dominant thought didn't just inspire him to action. It attracted the investors, engineers, and political support needed to build the Great Northern Railway. This demonstrates how financial wealth flows naturally when consciousness is properly aligned with specific objectives. Relationship wealth operates through the same principle but focuses on thoughts of service, value creation, and genuine contribution to others' lives. Hill noticed that the most successful individuals consistently thought in terms of how they could benefit others rather than what they could extract from relationships. John D. Rockefeller's dominant thought was providing affordable energy to American families, and this consciousness of service attracted loyal partners, dedicated employees, and public support that sustained his empire for generations. When our dominant thoughts center on creating value for others, we naturally attract the relationships that multiply our success. Health wealth emerges when consciousness focuses on vitality, energy, and physical excellence rather than disease, aging, and limitation. Hill observed that successful individuals maintained dominant thoughts of health and vigor that seemed to protect them from the ailments that plagued their less successful counterparts. Thomas Edison worked 18-hour days well into his 80s because his consciousness was dominated by thoughts of discovery and innovation rather than fatigue and decline. The body, Hill realized, responds to the dominant mental patterns we maintain about our physical capabilities and potential. Intellectual wealth develops through sustained thoughts of learning, growth, and expanding capability. Andrew Carnegie, despite limited formal education, became one of America's most knowledgeable industrialists because his consciousness was dominated by curiosity and the belief that any information could be acquired when needed. This mental attitude attracted the books, mentors, and experiences that continuously expanded his understanding. Hill recognized that intellectual poverty results from thoughts of mental limitation, while intellectual wealth flows from consciousness of unlimited learning potential. Spiritual wealth represents the foundation for all other forms of abundance and emerges from thoughts aligned with higher purpose and divine connection. Hill observed that the most fulfilled, successful individuals maintained dominant thoughts of gratitude, service, and alignment with principles greater than themselves. This spiritual consciousness provided the inner strength needed to persist through challenges and the wisdom needed to use wealth constructively. Without this spiritual foundation, Hill noted, Other forms of wealth often proved temporary or ultimately unsatisfying. The practical application of Hill's biblical principle requires systematic transformation of our dominant mental patterns through specific, time-tested techniques. The first step involves conducting what Hill called a mental inventory, honestly examining the thoughts that occupy our consciousness most frequently throughout each day. Most people discover they've been unconsciously maintaining thoughts of limitation, worry, and impossibility that perfectly explain their current circumstances. This awareness alone begins the transformation process by revealing how our inner world has been creating our outer experience. The second phase involves deliberate mental substitution, systematically replacing limiting thoughts with expanding ones aligned with our desired outcomes. Hill recommended writing specific statements that describe our objectives as if already achieved, then reading these statements aloud twice daily with emotional intensity. This process literally reprograms the subconscious mind to accept new possibilities as reality, triggering the creative mechanisms that bring these possibilities into physical manifestation. Hill's most powerful technique involved what he called sitting for guidance, a daily practice of mental quieting that allows inspired ideas to emerge from deeper levels of consciousness. During these sessions, successful individuals often received breakthrough insights, innovative solutions, and intuitive guidance that accelerated their progress dramatically. Edison received many of his most important inventions during these quiet periods, confirming Hill's observation that answers exist in consciousness before they appear in physical form. The fourth element requires translating mental transformation into consistent physical action. Hill emphasized that thought without action remains mere fantasy, but action without proper thought lacks direction and power. The most successful individuals he studied combined clear mental pictures with immediate, sustained action toward their objectives. This creates what Hill called definiteness of purpose in action, a state where thoughts and behaviors are perfectly aligned toward specific outcomes. Finally, Hill stressed the importance of surrounding ourselves with others who support and reinforce our expanding consciousness. He observed that successful individuals carefully chose associates whose dominant thoughts aligned with achievement and possibility rather than limitation and complaint. This principle recognizes that consciousness is contagious and that our mental environment profoundly influences our ability to maintain the thoughts that create wealth. The principle works with mathematical precision, but it requires sustained application over time to produce dramatic results. Ready to start applying these consciousness-based wealth principles in your own life? Subscribe to our channel for practical guidance on implementing Hill's techniques in modern American life. We're committed to helping you bridge ancient wisdom with contemporary application. Subscribe now and transform your thinking and your results. While Napoleon Hill's interpretation of biblical wealth principles offers extraordinary power for personal transformation, honest application requires acknowledging both the principle's limitations and potential misapplications in contemporary American society. The most significant limitation involves external circumstances beyond individual control, economic conditions, systemic barriers, health crises, or family emergencies that can disrupt even the most disciplined mental practices. Hill himself experienced financial setbacks despite mastering his own principles, reminding us that consciousness work must be balanced with realistic expectations about timing and external factors. The principle also faces challenges in our current cultural context, where immediate gratification often conflicts with the patience required for consciousness-based transformation. Hill's techniques were developed during an era when long-term thinking was more culturally supported. Today's rapid-fire information environment can make sustained focus on specific mental patterns more difficult to maintain. Additionally, some applications of positive thinking have devolved into denial of genuine problems or avoidance of necessary action, which Hill never intended and specifically warned against. Perhaps most importantly, Hill emphasized that the principle works through natural law rather than divine favoritism. This means it operates equally for destructive purposes when consciousness focuses on harmful objectives. Throughout history, individuals have used these same mental principles to create wealth through exploitation, manipulation, or other means that ultimately harm society. Hill's Christian worldview provided moral guardrails that modern applications sometimes lack, leading to success that enriches individuals while impoverishing communities. The principle requires significant personal responsibility and emotional maturity to apply constructively. Without proper character development, increased wealth and influence can amplify existing character flaws rather than resolving them. Hill observed that sustainable success required inner development alongside outer achievement, but contemporary applications sometimes focus exclusively on material results while neglecting the spiritual foundation that makes those results meaningful and lasting. These limitations don't invalidate Hill's insights, but rather call for sophisticated application that honors both the principle's power and its proper boundaries. The most effective practitioners combine consciousness work with practical action, spiritual development with material goals, and personal success with service to others. They understand that while thoughts do become things, the process operates within natural laws that require patience, wisdom, and moral consideration to produce outcomes that truly enrich human experience. Napoleon Hill's greatest contribution to American prosperity consciousness lies in his ability to demonstrate that biblical wisdom and practical success are not opposing forces, but complementary aspects of a unified system for human flourishing. The ancient verse, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he," becomes, through Hill's interpretation, not merely spiritual poetry, but precise instruction for wealth creation that honors both material abundance and moral excellence. This integration offers modern Americans a path to prosperity that satisfies both practical needs and deeper spiritual longings. Hill's legacy reminds us that true wealth extends far beyond financial accumulation to encompass the full spectrum of human potential: health, relationships, knowledge, character, and spiritual connection. His interpretation of biblical principles provided a framework for achieving this comprehensive abundance through consciousness transformation rather than mere technique application. This approach has proven more sustainable and satisfying than purely materialistic success strategies because it addresses the inner causes that determine outer circumstances. As we navigate an increasingly complex economic landscape, Hill's integration of ancient wisdom with practical application offers stability and direction that transcends changing market conditions. The principle that thoughts become things operates regardless of technological advancement, political changes, or economic cycles. By aligning our consciousness with timeless spiritual laws, we tap into sources of guidance and strength that have sustained human flourishing throughout history. Perhaps most significantly, Hill's work demonstrates that individual prosperity and collective benefit need not conflict when success is built upon proper spiritual foundations. The wealthiest individuals in his study consistently used their abundance to serve larger purposes, suggesting that consciousness aligned with divine principles naturally expresses itself through contribution to human welfare. This understanding transforms wealth from a selfish pursuit into a form of stewardship that benefits both the individual and society. The verse that captured Hill's imagination continues to offer profound guidance for anyone seeking to understand the deeper mechanics of success and abundance. It invites us to examine not just our external strategies, but our internal beliefs, not just our actions, but our underlying consciousness. As we apply this ancient wisdom to contemporary challenges, we discover that the path to true prosperity has been available all along, written in the hearts of those wise enough to recognize that all wealth, material and spiritual, begins with a single, transformative thought held with unwavering faith. If this exploration of Napoleon Hill's biblical approach to wealth has inspired you to examine your own consciousness and its role in creating your circumstances, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. We're committed to exploring the deepest principles of success and abundance from both ancient wisdom and modern application. Subscribe now and join a community dedicated to prosperity that honors both practical achievement and spiritual truth. Your transformation begins with a single thought, and your subscription begins with a single click.